Hi, and good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Gaver, Presbyterian minister of 3 congregations in Eastern Ontario. And thank you for joining us for this week's Puzzles in Faith. This week's question is, what about the sons of God taking daughters of men as their wives and having children with them? What on earth is going on there? This comes from Genesis 6, verses 1 to 4. And as we read this passage, that the sons of God or sons of the gods had sex, took wives from human beings, human women, had children, the Nephilim or the giants, who were the heroes of renown in the days past. And that just doesn't sound like what we've come to know about God. For one thing, there's only one God, and we don't ever hear stories of God having sex with anyone. And if we talk about Jesus as the Son of God, who are all these other sons of gods running around having sex? And it's like, wait a second, did I open the wrong book? This seems more like something I would expect to find in Greek mythology, where you have Zeus and Hades and Apollo all running around chasing women and having babies all over the place, including Hercules as one of the offspring. We don't expect to find that in the Bible, so why is it here? And this has bothered people and scholars and people of faith for a long time. And we go back to what is the Hebrew, and there's a very strange formation. Well, it's strange for us in English, but it's not strange in Hebrew. And it's like the daughters of man is simply a way of saying human beings, human females. So sons of God, well, B'nai Elohim is Elohim is the name for God, but it can also be the plural of gods. So sons of gods, or maybe it's a way of saying divine beings. And that is enough to give us a little bit of wiggle room on how to interpret the story. So one interpretation is that angels, the divine beings, angels, came and saw human women and had sex and had children with human women. That doesn't seem nearly as offensive. But in the New Testament, Jesus says that angels don't marry. So we're sort of left with, well, what happened? Why did these angels get married if, as a rule, they don't? Are they the fallen angels? So that's another interpretation, is that these are fallen angels who've fallen because they've become ensnared in the material physical world and taken human wives. So that's a second interpretation. A third interpretation, which I haven't really heard in Christian circles, but I did come across it when I was researching this, is seeing that the divine beings are the descendants of Seth. So if you remember, Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Abel's killed, Cain runs off, he's murdered, murderer. And then Adam and Eve have Seth. And we don't learn anything about him except he may have followed God and been a very godly person. So maybe he was so godly that the Bible refers to him as a divine being. And so he's having sex, which would be expected, with other mortal women. And we're talking about their descendants. It's another possibility. And still another, I guess this the fourth interpretation, very French, as you'll be quick to agree, is that there were UFO beings. A UFO landed, and so you got these spacemen wandering around having sex with human women. It's out there. I'm not, no, certainly it's not within the mainstream Christian circles, but it's out there. We can spend a lot of time wondering why the story's in the Bible and what does it have to teach us and how are we to interpret it. But the fact is, it's a story that is there and really doesn't go anywhere. We have references to giants in numbers, and Goliath was a giant, but that's it. So did the rest of them, did they die out with a flood? Except there's one or two that's, we honestly don't know what happened. And that makes us think about, what is it doing there? And again, the answer is we don't know. But there is something important to remember, and maybe that's the whole point, is the Bible, the purpose of the Bible is not to provide history, a window into the past. Yes, there are historical elements. We can learn a lot of history from the pages of the Bible, but that's not the point of why the Bible is written. It is not a historical book. It is a book telling us about God and about God's interactions with human beings. So what we have here is this huge story of God creating everything, us wandering away, disobeying God, all the evil that comes about because of that, and God interacting in the world, interacting through individuals like Noah, then through a family, a group of people, Abraham and the Jewish community, to bring about his plan at reconciling all of the world, the whole world, and coming back into a new creation at the end. And for us as Christians, it's through the Jews, then through Jesus and the church up to the end. But it's always that story of God interacting with human beings and working on this plan to redeem the world. But there are other things going on in the world at the same time. You know, there are other stories, other cultures, other languages, other people out there. And maybe this is just one way that the Bible says, yeah, we have this story over here too. But it's not part of this overall plan that God is doing. So yeah, there's a story here and it's going to go somewhere else. And there could be other stories that go somewhere else. But they're only important when they come into God's plan, into interacting with God's people. So there's a whole realm out there, but they exist, but they're not part of this major story. And maybe that's the whole purpose of why it's in there, to remind us there's a lot going on in the world outside of what's going on in God's plan. But the Bible is going to focus on this story. Other than that, we don't know. Ask God when you meet him. Once again, I'm the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Gaver, and thank you for joining us for this week's Puzzles in Faith. Next week, next Wednesday, is the first day of Lent. It's Ash Wednesday. And so our questions are going to start focusing on Jesus. So once again, take care, have a good week, and God bless. See you next week. Bye-bye.